Today on The Riff, Jeremy and Justin talk about professional wrestling and church. Somehow the two intersect. We hope today is helpful and hopeful. Thanks for listening.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Riff. Justin, in case I forget to tell you later this episode, it is a treat to have you. It's a delight to have you.
You stop it. I'm blushing.
You know what? Today I woke up, which is my goal. This is my goal.
Okay.
Because one day I won't, but today I did.
Good.
And we've worked together for many moons. We've officed together for, 7 years?
Yeah, a while.
And
I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if we had like bunk desks?
I love that.
I know. I've just been thinking about it.
And then we would share the desk on top, use the bottom one for like
activities.
Yes.
Yeah, man. I know. Keep going though. You woke up.
I was just like, I am going to treat I want our relationship to be fresh. You know, I want it to be fresh. I don't want to treat you as a roommate of like 7.5 years.
No, I appreciate
I want
that.
it to be like, Justin, what you're in today. And so the Riff.
I appreciate that.
I'm excited. So if you sense this French vibe, it's not a French vibe, it's a fresh vibe.
Oh, okay.
But I do have a cousin who married a Frenchman.
Really?
Yeah. So if I have a French vibe, that's probably where it comes from. And I grew up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, which is a French trapper's term.
Coeur d'Alene?
Coeur d'Alene. Coeur means heart. No one really knows. So Coeur, C-O-E, I'm not joking, C-O-E-U-R-D apostrophe capital A-L-E-N-E. I thought it was the only city in America with an apostrophe in its name. We always said that in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, until I moved here and we have Bulldog, right, with an apostrophe. So turns out I think there's a lot of cities with an apostrophe. But Coeur d'Alene means the heart of an anvil is what a lot of people think it means. And I think it was the French trappers who made their way in the 1800s to North Idaho. They found the Coeur d'Alene Indian tribe. And they found them to be shrewd traders. And so, which would explain the Coeur d'Alene, the heart of an anvil. And so that's how I grew up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. So yeah, French. Yeah. So when I have a French vibe, when I meant to say I have a fresh vibe, I probably have both.
Okay. It makes sense now.
Yeah.
No, it makes total sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, anything exciting going on in your world?
No, nothing.
Perfect.
Nothing. But I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, because we're going to riff. And
we are going to riff. This is like a true riff.
This is a true. I don't really appreciate the way you just said that.
Well,
as opposed to.
Usually we talk about something and then we're like, we should talk about that on the riff.
Yeah.
This one, you said a term and then I said.
Just like 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, and then I said, what's that? And then you said, no, start the recording.
Yeah, let's just riff it. Let's riff it.
All right.
Let's riff it.
All right.
So I would say half the time we prepare 5 minutes of what should we talk about? The other half we just whatever. This one,
just
zero.
Say 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's usually about 30.
Like means we have a conversation. We're like, sure. Let's do it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Like before. I mean, it's not like we prepare. It's not like, okay, hey,
I thought you meant
are
like
you ready for
out
the
of
recording?
every episode, 5 minutes is like, oh, that seemed prepared. And the rest is like, well, that was.
Well, I don't know that any of it seems prepared.
No, that's true. That's fair.
But this one definitely doesn't, because I just said, hey, so I threw out this term, and this term is not even an English term. I guess today, how multicultural are we? This is like an ethnic melting pot. This episode is, huh?
It's so true, man.
Should be sponsored by Rosetta Stone or Duolingo or something. Because we've already talked a French term, and I'm going to introduce a Japanese term to you.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's introducing it, but let me throw out the word Kayfabe.
I've never heard Kayfabe.
You've never heard Kayfabe.
I've never heard Kayfabe.
But you've experienced Kayfabe. And I think that should be the title of this. So if we have not yet
the title should
titled
be Justin
this,
experienced Kayfabe, or just Kayfabe?
I think we go Kayfabe.
Okay, all right.
Not very Kayfabulous.
Spell that for me. Okay. Can you spell it? I don't know.
Yes,
I'm not like testing you. I'm just asking.
Kayfabe. 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 Okay. So here's the deal. I'm reading a book.
Okay.
Called The Invisible Jesus. And basically it's talking about, and we could drop a link to the book. It's Todd. I don't remember Todd's last name. And Todd, please
He's got
forgive
one though,
me.
right?
Yeah. It's Todd's book.
Yeah, it's Todd's
and
book.
he co-authors this with Scott McKnight. So anyway, The Invisible Jesus it's talking about why a lot of people who are right now unchurched, maybe spiritually open, but yet unconvinced in the rhythm of meeting together with others, unconvinced in the church structure, whatever it might be, which a lot of our target of we want to land the message of Jesus in a way that this crew of people would not have unnecessary objections to. And so it's fascinating as I'm reading this book, just hearing a little bit more about this group of people. I feel like we're called on a mission too. And they use this term, Kayfabe, that I had never heard before much. And then, so I want to walk through it. So again, this isn't a new thought, but it was a new epiphany for me as I watched through this thought.
I feel better now that it's newer to you.
It is.
Because when you said, you've never heard of Kayfabe? And then you looked at me like I should have.
A little judgy.
10, 15 years ago.
And part of it is I know that my excitement bleeds into a little realm of arrogance. I understand that, and I'm working on that, right? So Kayfabe, it's a wrestling term. It's a Japanese wrestling term. That means you don't break character. That's what Kayfabe is. Don't break character. We understand Hulk Hogan doesn't believe he's Hulk Hogan.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa. I think that might be false. Just on the Hulk Hogan side of things.
Probably.
Let's go with another wrestler.
His real name is Terry.
Yeah, I don't think anymore, though. I think he's straight up Hulk Hogan in his brain. Let's go Undertaker, right? Undertaker doesn't believe that, right?
Well, the truth is, these wrestlers are we understand, like when we watch them as adults, we know
as kids.
They think, no, I'm talking adults. I'm talking adults.
All right.
We know they don't really believe that, but they have to act, not only that they believe it, they have to act like we all believe it. So it's an adult, Terry Bollina or whatever his name is, right? He's going to talk in his Hulkamaniac voice, which is not bad.
Good.
Right?
That was really good.
Yeah. And so he's going to talk like this to a bunch of adults like Mean Gene Upshaw or whatever. I don't know. Gene Upshaw, I think he was an NFL commissioner. But you know Mean Gene? Do you know Mean Gene? Are you a wrestling fan?
I was as a child. Yes.
What era?
That would have been like late 90s. Okay. Maybe mid-90s. Mid-90s. 94.
So like who were some of the heroes? Stone Cold Stephen Austin? Were you in the...
Bret the Hitman Hart?
Remember Yeah. Well, he was...
Triple H?
Okay, yeah.
I guess this has been like mid-90s.
Okay, so...
He runs something now, right? Is he like the...
Yeah, Triple H married Vince McMahon's daughter.
Classic Triple H move.
Yeah, no,
Classic
it is. So, okay, so you're still listening to this. I was growing up. I was probably junior high, late 80s, early 90s. Okay, probably junior high. This was probably late 80s. Hulk Hogan was the man. Okay, it was Andre the Giant versus Hulk Hogan. You have Macho Man Randy Steele, Miss Elizabeth,
Randy Savage.
Why did I say Randy Steele?
I don't know, but it's Macho Man Randy Savage.
There's George the Animal Steele. There's Hacksaw Jim Duggan. There's all. Okay, so you got all these. This was my era. I loved it. I had posters in my room of these. So back in those times, this is before like a lot of cable was a deal. So it was on NBC every Saturday morning. And you'd have wrestling. There was even a wrestling cartoon. And then once a month after Saturday Night Live, so this would be late, like at 12 maybe, they would have like this big event of the month. And it would be on NBC. And so my parents would wake me up for this to come down. So they were fine with me like being all into it. And I was all into it. So one day my dad, he he gets us tickets to go to the Spokane Arena because we're in Coeur d'Alene, City of the Anvil, right? Heart of an anvil. Which is 30 minutes from Spokane. So we go to the Spokane Arena, and my parents surprise us with tickets to wrestling. And I had seen on Saturday mornings, they would cut out to a shot of Gene, and he's talking about, hey, wrestling fans, we're coming to the Spokane Arena, right? And so I knew they were coming to Spokane, and sure enough, we got tickets. We watched Jake the Snake play Ravishing Rick Rude, and Ravishing Rick Rude would always pick a lady if he wanted to kiss, and I was hoping he'd kiss my mom, even though I loved that my mom loved my dad. I thought this would be awesome. I watched the British Bulldogs play Axe and Smash the Demolition Derby, right? This was amazing. Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, evil man, right?
So
that was before he came to Christ. So anyway, and then he was on TBN. But the thing is, I'm watching all these things unfold, and what was crazy, as I'm watching the British.
I did not know this about you at all.
Oh,
this
yeah.
is great.
Yeah. So the British Bulldogs are taking on tag team against the Demolition Derby. And the Demolition Derby threw powder in the British Bulldogs' eyes. Oh, wow. And so they were blinded, and they were able to pin them out. And it was unfair. And so I never noticed, no belts were changed at these events, right? So everyone who was the champion stayed the champion, and whatever. And I'm like, that was amazing. I mean, there's a highlight. So then a couple months later, I'm hanging with my buddy down in Boise, Idaho, which is a whole different region, right, of Idaho. And I'm talking to him about highlight of my summer was my parents took me to WWF. And he's like, no way, I went to WWF. I'm like, you went to Spokane? He's like, no, they were in Boise. I'm like, Boise? I never heard that they went to Boise. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, who'd you see? He starts talking about how he saw Jake the Snake play Ravishing Rick Rude.
No.
He starts saying that he saw the British Bulldogs play the Demolition Derby. I'm like, no. Like, that's the same matchup. I said, who won? He's like, Demolition Derby. I said, how did they win? They threw powder in the eyes. And it was at that moment, I'm like in 8th grade. Now, this is before the internet, right? So I realized for the first time in my life, as like this 13-year-old or 14-year-old dude, like I've been played. Like this is a tour and they're doing the same thing all over America. And then I realized next time I watch the Saturday morning wrestling, it's an edit job. And when Gene says we're coming to Spokane, he probably taped 50 of those and he's announcing the tour. It never dawned on me this is a tour. It never dawned on me they're not changing belts. It never dawned on me that nothing significant to the overall plot happens on these tour events. And I realized as a 14-year-old, this is fake. And I kind of thought it might be, but I for real, I never thought it was fake. And the moment I realized it was fake, I was like, I'm out. Like I stopped watching WWF. Wasn't into it when they changed to WWE. Wasn't into, so I missed the whole Stone Cold Austin, the Hollywood Hulk Hogan era when he went back to the other. I missed all of that because once I realized it was fake, zero interest. Now recently, I'm watching a Netflix episode of Mr. McMahon. It's on Vince McMahon. And I was interested because I was like, oh, he was the dude who owned WWF. Fascinating. When I was a kid, I loved it. I want to read this document or watch this documentary. Now, I'm not recommending it. There's some crazy stuff in there, as you can imagine what the life of wrestling would be. But for me, I was like, man, that was a big part of my childhood. I want to watch this. And I was fascinated because when I stopped watching in 8th grade, I never kept up with it. And I didn't see any internet on it because, it wasn't a thing back then. And so all these scandals of WWF, I had no idea. I had no idea that Hulk Hogan had to go to court and testify about steroids and all this kind of stuff and kind of sold people out. And I had no idea. It was fascinating. And I was just laughing. I'm explaining to my whole family. They're like, why are you watching this documentary? I'm like, this was such a big part of my life growing up. And so it's all this nostalgia. And when I realized it was fake, I was done. Okay, that's a long backstory. So I'm reading this book. At the same time I'm just finished this episode on Netflix. And it talks about Kayfabe. And Kayfabe is, you don't break character as a wrestler. You're never allowed to break character. You have to, even though we know you don't believe you're this person, you have to act like it. And Kayfabe is the gift I bring to the organization that as an adult, I'm going to show up, pay money at this wrestling arena. And even though I know this is fake, for the time that I'm here, I'm going to go with it and I'm going to convince myself it's real, even though I know it's not real. I don't want to be the dude there saying it's fake. And Kayfabe is saying not only do the people performing this know that it's fake, the people watching it know it's fake, but we do it because it's a great outlet. It's a great emotional release, or it's nostalgia from when we were a kid. And it says a lot of the reasons why some people have given up on church is Kayfabe. When they were growing up, they believed it was real. And somewhere along the line, maybe in junior high, maybe in college, all of a sudden they saw something that they're like, Kayfabe, it's fake. It's fake. And I will not go along with it. Some people will. Some people go to a church that they don't even agree with doctrinally or even agree with culturally, but they don't want to break Kayfabe because it meant something to me as a kid. And it means something to my family. And so if I can just go along with this and not say anything about it, it's easier to get along than to say something about it. But the challenge is if we keep running environments where the culture is saying that's fake and we don't address it, even though we know, well, I'm not fake and my community is not fake, if we realize our culture is saying to Christianity as a whole, Kayfabe, I don't believe in it. And we're like, well, I don't believe in that kind of stuff either, to be honest with you. Not Christianity, but the way they're doing it. And we are silent is we're participating in Kayfabe. And the problem is people dismiss us because for their experience, it's fake. And it's been messing with my mind. I'm like, what things do I not agree with that I don't agree with that. I don't agree with the way this leader does that. I don't agree with the way this Christian celebrity does that. But I'm like, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to be the black sheep. I don't want to say anything because I don't want to be rogue or angsty. But if I realize the number one reason why a whole generation of people have walked away from Jesus is because they think it's about as real as WWE or WWF, then wouldn't it be important for us to say, Kayfabe, I'm not going to buy the ticket to make you all feel like this is the real deal when I know that's not a real deal. And I'm not saying Jesus isn't real. I am all in on Jesus. I'm all in on properly interpreted scripture. I'm all in on that. But when I hear something that I know isn't real, I need to grow and I need to be able to say, not just because I can spit out the bones, I can't think like that. I got to be able to be a voice for our culture who says, not only am I not against that person, anyone who associates with that person, you're guilty by association. Kayfabe.
Tell me something right now that you think in Christian culture is Kayfabe.
A prosperity gospel. Okay. That'd be an easy one because I'm not offending. I can't imagine I'm offending anyone. So I don't want to I'm not just limiting it to that, but that's an easy start. Okay. In the sense of when someone gets up, like we see this, like, okay, preachers and sneakers is a thing. Preachers and sneakers is a thing.
And that's why you've been not wearing shoes.
Yeah.
Which I think is a bold move.
Yep. I want to teachers and toenails. You can tell that's a thing. I'm going to keep it going. And so, but what it is you're seeing this whole mockery on social media about some of the best communicators of the gospel happen to be some of the richest people in Christendom, richest Christian employees, okay? And it's a joke. Now, it represents such a small percentage of preachers, but it represents a huge viewpoint of American Christianity. And so when you have the most influential people who act as if they're super celebrities, and so this Preachers and Sneakers Instagram account is all about, why is this preacher wearing a $1,700 pair of sneakers, right? Why, just because you're good at communication, do you feel like you can dress like a rich person? And that's fine. Like, whatever. If you have the money and you made the money because your rich aunt died and gave you all this money and you inherited your uncle's cool sneakers, okay, that's all. One, that's not what's happening, okay? But even if that's happening, it's communicating a message that the culture is saying Kayfabe. I don't want to listen to you because the way you are positioning yourself is so gross. And for me to be like, oh yeah, but most people aren't like that. What we have to do is look at that and be like, yeah, that's wrong. Yeah, so easy one would be prosperity gospel. For example, how about social media? Okay. Anytime we try and grasp position and image, when I have to bring a camera with me every time I do something good, or if every time I'm invited to speak somewhere, I have to make sure I put on social media how humbled I am to be speaking with these people, right? That for me, those are things that I'm like, why do I want to post this? Is there anything about me posting this is me being, I'm kind of cool and I want everyone to know how much of this is attention? And if that's true, Kayfabe. And so just trying to be a celebrity, trying to pastor America and not pastoring your church, trying to be a voice without taking the responsibility of what's in front of you, Kayfabe. But it could be politically, okay? For example, we've done a message about this. Here, this is a big one this fall. How evangelicals, and that term, I don't know what that means to you, but evangelicals meaning most traditional Christian churches that have a lot of influence in America, dominant Christian culture. Most evangelicals would say this about leading up to the election. They would say, you got to vote policy over personality, which is their way of saying, you vote Trump, right? They'd say, you got to vote policy over personality, which I'm like, okay, you can see what someone means by that, right? But why they're saying it, I say Kayfabe. What you're doing is you're trying to use your spiritual position to convince people that's the reason to vote for the person you want them to vote for. The other thing that we would see in this is I would hear pastors speak like this. Well, God's always used flawed leaders in the past. We just know that. The Bible is filled with people using flawed leaders. And they're saying this. If they're an evangelical saying that, they're typically saying that to get ready to say, hey, so you should vote for Trump, okay? And so they'd say, and so they start giving examples. King David, man, he was a murderer and an adulterer, and he did some bad things. King Nebuchadnezzar, ooh, Nelly, okay, this guy. So God's used flawed leaders. And then I would hear this from multiple pastors. That's why we need to be able to make sure we don't put an evil spirit in office, but not be afraid to let God use a flawed leader. And they're saying that's why you should vote Republican and vote for Trump. And again, this is not a message about who you should vote for. This is a message about saying, when you're talking to me about flawed leaders and how God's used flawed leaders, that's a very interesting intro to a conversation about how we should be afraid of this flawed leader. In their version, Kamala, right? I'm like, well, just based on your, entry point into this conversation, shouldn't we be excited about either of the flawed leaders that we have? And then I'm shocked that you're using how God uses flawed leaders to say how scared we should be if we choose the wrong flawed leader, right? And so I'm not, again, that's not political. I'm saying that's a spiritual. When they do that, you want to say, Kayfabe. You're using a spiritual sounding argument to make a political statement. Kayfabe. Our culture doesn't put up with that. Again, not about how you vote politically or even what your policies or preferences. That's not what it is. It's using spirituality in a way to pass an agenda. Kayfabe. It's fake. And we've got to be able to call it out. So I don't know. It says if we talk Kayfabe, what's some Kayfabe that you think of? Kayfabe.
All of it. All of it.
Some of it must not be. But what is?
Like, there is something about Jesus that I can't get out of my spirit and my brain. Like, for me, like him, just It's not Kayfabe. Like, it's just, he's so, every time I open up the Gospels, every time I read about him, it's different, right? Meaning, like, there's some way that I'm rereading this, and I'm never to a spot where I think I'm like, well, I'm totally in line with Jesus. Like, there's at some point always something that I'm reading, and I'm like, what? No, that's not. Like, that's not. And then when you look at, like, just Christendom as a whole and just the church as a whole, just all of it, like, there's just these structures and these things that make it seem like it's really binary, and it's very just like black and white, and it's very easy, and it's very like, and that part I'm like, Kayfabe too, right? Like, all of that. I'm like, it's so much more mystical than we make it in today's like American westernized church. So I think for me, like, when you're talking about that, like, just it makes me think of like how we even put on services, or how we do social media, or how we do like all of these things, to where these people that are actually really wanting to see Jesus and be seen by Jesus are somehow watching us as a church, or multiple churches in Springfield or around the nation, and they're like, wait, I don't know if these match up.
Right.
Like, like with wrestling, I'm like, I'm watching the Olympics and I'm watching WWE, and I'm like, I think wrestling is real, but I don't think that is real.
Right.
Like, there really is a thing called wrestling. There is.
Yeah.
But I'm like confused because I'm watching it on Saturdays, and I'm like, I don't think wrestling's real. But no, I know wrestling's real. And that's what I look at when you're talking about it. I'm like, this whole Jesus thing, I'm like, no. Wait, like, I think this Jesus thing, I think it's real. I really do. But when I look at like the Saturday or Sunday version of it, I'm like, what am I watching?
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. I think it's really fascinating to walk through something like that, because I think it's a real thing. I think that's what people are. That's what I'm experiencing, right? I mean, I go through seasons of this, of just like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing as a denomination, or as a culture, or Christianity as a whole? Like, all of it. I'm like, I just kind of want to get back to Jesus. Like, I had a conversation this morning. I had a conversation with a guy that is no longer associated or affiliated with a church in any way, because of how it's presented. In his words, of the things that you all do. That was his verbatim thing. And I started talking to him because I had to leave. We're doing, while we record this, we're doing some annual event stuff for Dream Center. And then he was like, wait, what's the Dream Center? And I was like, that's just kind of the hands and feet of Jesus, right? And then explained this whole thing about Dream Center and what we do. And he was like, I could be on with that. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, I'm not against like helping people. I'm not against Jesus. I'm not against any of that stuff, man. It's just that, everything you do on the weekends, I don't get it. Yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. And he's calling Kayfabe, right? Yeah. I mean, he had a crazy tragedy in his life about a year ago. And at that point he was like, no, this is not real. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, Jesus, when he was walking around, that's what he was calling. If he was Japanese, I'm not even saying he's not. Okay. Well, I am saying he's not. Okay. I'm pretty sure he's not. But like, I mean, he's just as much Japanese as he is American. So I'll say that. But he would be saying Kayfabe, because that's what he was saying. He says, you are blind guides. You're blind. He would say, oh, you guys are so legalistic. You're straining out a gnat, but you're swallowing a camel. He would say you're a whitewashed tomb. You're cleaning the outside, but the inside you're decaying and rotten and smelly, right? It's like Weekend at Bernie's, right, vibe. I mean, he was constantly yelling Kayfabe, 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 because he's like, this whole system that you've created, it's fake. I've come to tell you, it's not real. This is real. I am real. And they killed him. Mm-hmm. Because he wasn't willing to go along with that. And so what we need to do is make sure that as we're presenting Jesus, we can easily start going along with things that we do not believe, that are not the correct interpretation of Scripture. And again, it's not to be the jerk who's just angsty and judgmental, but there are things where like, this clearly is not the heart of Jesus, or this clearly is a rabbit trail, and this isn't helpful So at what point do we think of something that we're like, because for me, it doesn't make me feel like, I don't want to be part of. Rarely do I feel like, man, I don't want to be part of this mission because what I see is a tendency for church, including ours. It makes me feel like I just want to do it right and I want to do it real. Not that we would be the one, but I want us to be a one that does it as real as possible. So I'm thinking, like, I don't want to get up there Sunday and be like, nah. Hey guys, how you all doing? Wasn't this message funny? Isn't this topic so intriguing? Come back next week and look how much attendance we have and look how many people we baptized. At the same time, I want anybody there who's like, I want real Jesus. I want you to feel his presence there. I want you to sense him talking to you. I want you to take that next step. I want to be able to baptize you. I want you to be able to, but my thought is, what are we doing that isn't helpful that we do just because that's the culture we've created around the very thing we want to do? And let's eliminate that, right? I call it for what it is. Like, hey, do we need Christian softball leagues? No. Okay? No, we don't need that. Is it bad to play softball? No, but why do we need to make Christians busier? Okay? So it's easy. Like, we don't have Christian softball teams. And sometimes people say, you know what we should have is a Christian softball league. I bet we have enough guys. Like, why would we do that? Okay? There already are softball leagues and they run it better than we can. But so that's easy. So then the question is, why do we have Christian groups? It's a great question. Then it ultimately comes down to, do we believe this is helping someone get through a struggling marriage? Then let's do it. Do we believe this is helping someone who's seeking to get some footholds for their faith? Cool, let's do it. If it helps keep Christians busier on Tuesday nights so we don't, have a boring week, then what are we doing? We're not here to just build friendship. We're here to have authentic community. What are we doing that creates that? And that's true for all of our areas. Student ministries, Kid Point. What are we doing to help people in their real current journey and struggles? And how do we present Jesus to them right there? Anything short of that's Kayfabe. So anyway, Kayfabe.
It's so good.
But it's helped me. Even just since writing this. And like getting too much into it is like, so I had a situation where someone sent me something because I'm a pastor and they have leadership. They have leadership over us, right? Over me in some type of authority, whatever. And watching this document they sent to me, looking at it, and I'm like, Kayfabe. This is not true. It's just not true. And so before reading that, I would have been like, that's stupid. That's one of the things I don't like about this crew. And instead, now I'm like, hey, Kayfabe, just want you to know this is not cool, okay? I don't appreciate this being sent. And being willing to have the conversation of like, what? I don't want to get along to go along. Right. And I've probably rarely been accused of it. But the truth is, my personality is more that way, to be like, I see it differently and I'm going to present it differently, but whatever. I don't want to make waves. But I've got to check my heart, check my motive. And here's my commitment from reading that and really wrestling over Kayfabe is, when it's appropriate, the right response is to yell Kayfabe, because there's a lot of people who stopped going to our events when they were in 8th grade, when they felt like it wasn't real, whether they experienced something that was fake or they perceive something that they really, especially when you felt it was real and then you're shown it's not, you feel embarrassed and you distance yourself. And let's not build a church that is dependent upon people who know that there's a lot of fake stuff you just got to spit out. But come along because it might be a good experience, or it might be nostalgic, it might be great for your family, right? It's like, whatever. We don't want to waste your time with that. Let's build the kind of experience that you can say Kayfabe. And we can say, really? Why? Let's look at it that. Let's wrestle with that. Jesus, if that's real, show us it's real. If it's not, help us to have the humility to get rid of it. So anyway, let's live a Kayfabe life. No, opposite.
No.
See, I'm still learning it.
You got it. That's not.
Let's live.
No. A life that we're willing to say Kayfabe. Yes. That's it.
Kayfabe. Let's live. That's what you got out of it, Jeremy. Live a Kayfabe life. Do it better so no one knows it's fake. That's it. All right. Anyway, congratulations on your attention span. That's another episode of the Riff, and we hope you use the term. Here's your homework. Use the term sometime this week. Just say it out loud. Kayfabe. And when someone says, "What's that mean?" Just make them feel totally insecure with what you look at them and be like, "What do you mean you don't know what Kayfabe is?"
Listen to the Riff.
Yes,
unbelievable.
Have a great week.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Riff. We'll have a brand new episode every week, wherever you find podcasts.